Hey everyone, this is Brooks Popwell from Pure Life Ministries. You're about to hear part of our bi-weekly podcast, Purity for Life. Hope you enjoy. Ken Larkin is a biblical counselor here at Pure Life. Ken, I think it's really important that we are able to share with people from time to time some key ways they can fight sexual temptation. So I want to ask you to share this concept that I know you find really important for people to understand as a counselor, this idea of being a giver. I think that honestly, when I say that phrase while we're discussing the topic of sexual sin, people might have a hard time making that connection initially. So to start off, can you tell us just basically what you have in mind when you talk about that phrase, being a giver?
Yeah, it means the basic flow of your life is outward toward others. Instead of being consumed with what I can get for myself, I'm more concerned about others and their needs and what's important to them.
Okay, I think I'm following that. Now, this right at the outset seems like something that's totally the opposite of what we see in the culture here in America that's around us. I mean, wouldn't you say that's true?
Absolutely. Yeah, everything in our culture is catered toward self, toward getting something that you desire.
Now, I know there's a lot of other important spiritual disciplines that somebody has to have in their life in order to stay free. I mean, they have to have a basic walk with God, Bible reading, prayer, we know all of those things. But in what you've seen in the Bible and in your own counseling, how important is this teaching of being a giver in relationship to a person's spiritual life?
I believe it's extremely important because true spirituality is about being godly or godlike. And God himself is a giver. The scriptures say in John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his son. And you can't have a true walk with God or any true spirituality without the element of giving. The whole ministry of Jesus was to give his life away for others. Everything he did was focused on meeting the needs of others. And ultimately the cross was all about meeting the needs of others. And if we're going to call ourselves a Christian and not live the way Jesus lived, then that's hypocrisy. Giving is a huge central theme in the Christian life.
Now, I know sometimes you must have counselees that are like, yeah, I hear what you're saying about giving, but my big problem is I'm looking at pornography, or I just have all these lustful thoughts that won't go away, or whatever else. How's this going to help me? If guys just aren't making the connection between sexual sin and giving, what do you tell them?
Sexual sin evolves around someone's desire. It's coveting lust, the desire to get something for self. And the idea of being a giver is the opposite flow of that you're going to actually be more concerned with what I can give to other people. And you can't have a flow inward and a flow outward at the same time. One of them is going to take precedence. So if you actually learn to become a giver, it's going to undermine that selfishness that fuels your addiction. If you don't deal with that at that fundamental level, then you may even overcome, in some respects, your addiction to sexual sin, but it's going to manifest itself in some other way in your life.
Well, that does help to clear it up a little bit. So from here, can you give us some practical ideas if somebody has realized, man, I am a selfish person and I need to make some changes, but, they're not sure where to start? What would you tell them?
One of the keys we found in overcoming sexual sin is, again, learning to become a giver and the simplicity of just praying for other people. Learning to pray for other people. Even in our prayers, we can be selfish and focused on ourselves. But if you learn to pray for other people, God will begin to change your heart toward others. Yes, their needs will be met, but you're going to be changed also, and you're going to become less selfish by learning to give in that way.
Okay, so you highlighted prayer as a good place to start. What would be some other things?
Along with prayer is begin focusing more on others. If you can learn to be a servant and give your life away for the sake of others like Jesus did, that will go a long way in undermining that selfishness that fuels your addiction. And with that, in a practical sense, find a need and fill it. Your own home, maybe doing chores for your wife or helping your parents or whatever the case may be around the house. It can begin right in your own home, doing something you wouldn't normally do. Just serve other people. You can volunteer in your local church. You can go to a soup kitchen or a homeless shelter and volunteer, nursing homes, visit the elderly, the jail ministry. Really, there's no limit because the needs are out there. It's just finding a need and filling it and learning to do that as a lifestyle, not just a nice pet project on the side, but learning to become a giver as a lifestyle in the practical outworkings of your everyday life.
Now, Ken, I know you came out of sexual sin yourself, and for years now you've been counseling others who that's their background. This teaching, as you've shared it with the men you've counseled and as you've tried to put it into practice in your own life, can you tell us a little bit the changes you've seen?
I've seen men coming to the program that seemed hopeless, totally given over to sexual sin, some for decades. And just by simply learning to be a giver, their lives were totally changed and set free through the power of the gospel and through Jesus Christ, through learning to be a doer of the word and just putting into practice basic things like being a giver. And in my own life, I've been radically set free. It's amazing what God can do if we're just willing to cooperate with him and do what he says in his word.
Thanks for listening. You can find Purity for Life on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite directory. Or just go to our website, purelifeministries.org/podcast.